already, but she wasn't very good at words. In his presence, her palms sweat and her tongue tied, and her heart positively soared. Eloquence was impossible. The trees rattled their limbs at her despite the absence of more wind, pulling her from her thoughts. Curious, she turned to the nearest trunk and laid the flat of her hand over the bark, sharing her warmth with it. The tree stilled. Slowly the others followed suit, and the forest fell calm once more. She had an affinity with the woods. The trees, her friends, delivered messages to her in shared feelings. From one end of the forest to the other and beyond, they passed her communications and projections, but never in words. With her palm pressed hard enough to feel the bark's ridges through her leather gloves, she sensed the stress and worry of a mortal she'd come to know well. An image of the woman popped into her mind, looking frazzled and worn. Susan owned the tavern not far from there, on the edges of River Row, where the city met her forest. Mortals are fragile creatures, Bernard thought, constantly swimming in and out of the rapids, always in need of someone to save them from drowning. If you're finally tired of their antics— I'm not tired of them, Rain said reprovingly. Spinning on her heels back in the direction of the eventide, she picked up her pace, determined to reach Susan and the girls faster. What of your visitor? That slowed her, but only just. Tonight, he'd have to walk the woods alone. Bernard was right. Mortals were fragile and their lives were short. Though she didn't look it, she'd lived so many centuries these mortals seemed like children to her, streetwise and world-weary though they were. They were kind and vulnerable too, offering her companionship and shelter when the ground froze over, and in exchange she promised to always come when they needed her most. Rain's fey blood helped her navigate the trees in the dark, gave her skin its golden hue, and made her fast, nearly faster than Bernard in his bounding cat form. The parts of you that aren't fey are overly concerned with the weaker things of the world, Bernard mused as they ran. You'd be better served if you listened to your immortal instincts more. Panting, Rain's breath fogged in front of her. My ability to care about weaker things in this world is the only reason why you're my familiar. That reminder stopped his grumbling. The trees parted, the bustling sounds of city life chasing away the quiet of the woods. The fencing was sparse here, allowing Rain to come and go easily. Susan's modest red-brick tavern sat along a busy side street. A worn wooden sign in the shape of a red stocking hung above the front door. The words had faded long ago, so the locals simply called the tavern the Red Boot now. Rain could hear the rush of the river eventide in the distance, the flurry of footsteps from travellers coming and going, the clomp of horse hooves and carriage wheels, the last bell chiming before the final ferry departed. The sounds even at the edge of the row were so different from the peaceful ambience of the forest she called home. The energy it took to decipher it all made her pulse surge. Hide yourself for now, she cautioned Bernard, rounding toward the side entrance, at least until we know what's wrong. Bernard darkened in colour and then evaporated into a puff of black smoke. The smog gathered itself into a hovering cloud and then funneled a path beneath her cloak into her side satchel. Familiars were a type of trickster, a magical shape changer. Bernard, a particularly powerful one, could replicate any form as long as it wasn't larger than his true demon shape. She didn't know what form he'd taken once he'd settled, only that something grew solid and heavy as it weighed against her thigh. Rain shouldered open the side door slowly, the scent of ale and excesses stinging her nose as she peered inside. Despite the traffic on the street, the front doors were shut tight and barred. Gas lights burned dully, illuminating drab wood floors and walls cluttered with paintings and hangings. There were only 3 patrons, which was unusual. The boot was normally full of visitors this time of night, catching the workers as they headed home for the evening. 2 men sat at the bar, and the other occupied a back table with Margot, one of the prostitutes. Susan worked the counter, messy golden hair pinned up haphazardly, the bodice of her low-cut dress wrinkled. Rain had never seen her so untidy. Their eyes met as she slipped inside.